Today's episode isn't about fixing you, it's about seeing you. You're not lazy, you're not broken, you're overwhelmed, and your system is begging for relief. When the shutdown is so severe, sometimes we don't even understand what our body is trying to tell us. All we know is that it feels like it's failing us because we can't move. We feel stuck in one place. All we have the energy to do is to scroll up and down on our phone, and we can barely even hear our own thoughts or listen to a podcast. I've jokingly said that it made me catatonic, but it was true. I'd be stuck in my bed in one position all day, or I'd be stuck in my couch. It would feel like I was undoing all my hard work, and it felt like I was stuck in my thoughts of, why bother, why move? I almost even intellectualized it, like, there's no point in moving. There's no point in going out and doing that thing. There's no point in being active online right now. Look at the feed. What do I have to contribute in this environment? What do I have to say that nobody else is already saying? Where do I even fit into this narrative? I was intellectualizing my way out of movement, and I was staying stuck. But what if I told you that staying stuck in your own brain was a form of hell? I like to lovingly refer to this as the slump from hell. The medical world would call this your body in its nervous system regulation state. And it's true. I'm not here to discredit that. I do feel like it is a little overused, so I like to call it the slump from hell. So if you're somebody like me, let's talk about what's going on when you're in this slump from hell. What causes it, how to get out of it, how to nurture yourself through it, and how to not beat yourself up over it. Thank you guys for tuning into today's episode. I'm now going to make a moment to play some sponsored ads, which, by the way, support me, and they make it so that I can keep making these episodes. Spotify Premium members don't have to listen to these ads. So just a heads up if you're listening to me on any other platform. We're now back from ads and returning to the episode of The Slump from Hell. When you're in a shutdown, you feel like your body is failing you. It feels like your body's working against you. But really, it's responding exactly as it should to the stressors around you. When your nervous system is being set off and it's regulating itself into fight or flight, or maybe even paralysis, that's when you think, it's time for me to start regulating my body. I'm not doing what I need to be doing. Whatever's going on right now, I'm better than this and I can move away from this. But what if you're beating yourself up over your body trying to send you warning signals about what's going on around you and how it's impacting you? What if this is something that you're supposed to walk with and not shame yourself away from? I don't know if we're both on the same FYP, but my FYP right now is having a lot of conversations about having a hard time falling asleep, but being able to get up in the morning, being able to brush your teeth in the morning, but not being able to do it at night, being someone who gets stuck in a doom scroll, or what I like to call a scroll lock. Like literally the only thing I can do is look forward and scroll up and down. And it's confusing because if you're an overachiever or if you're somebody who tries to aim high in life, you've probably worked a full-time job and went to school. Or you worked 2 jobs and you went to school. You were able to live off, 6 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep. Maybe you even were somebody who had a lot of activities going on in high school. Suddenly it feels like now you get up to do coffee in the morning and feed your pet and it's like, that's it. You're beat up, you're defeated. You barely have energy to do anything else for the day. Why? I'm not about to sit here and pretend like what's going on in the world isn't a part of it. How the first 10 days of the Trump presidency affected everybody's mood, especially if you're somebody who's not right-leaning like I am. And I live in a Republican state. So this actually had an impact on me. It was one of the contributors, for myself at least. The first thing I want you to do is acknowledge that you're not broken. You're overwhelmed. The presidency was designed to overwhelm you within the first 60 to 90 days. So if it felt like we were getting nonstop barraged, that was the point. Cue the fact that it was January and February, the coldest months of the year, also dark. It is a recipe for making an already bad situation worse. For me personally, this is kind of hard to say out loud, but I had a really hard time coping with what was going on in my life. If you want to go straight to the symptoms and my recommendations for how to work around your slump from hell and get out of it, fast forward to the 15th minute of this podcast. The next 10 minutes will be me sharing a personal story about how I achieved my slump from hell, because yes, it was a very external experience, and then I internalized it. So if you guys care about how that looked like for me, stay tuned. If not, fast forward. Some of you guys might not be familiar with my lore, but when I was 27, turning 28, I lived with my mom and her husband in Florida, which is where I grew up. Once again, reminder, I'm not a Republican, but then they told me that I had a span of 3 weeks to decide if I want to stay with them and go to Vermont, or if I want to figure it out in Florida. And everybody in my community was being very nice to me and loving and supporting me going to Vermont in the name of content creating full time. And then I did have someone in my life who told me, no, like, you have to make it work in Florida. You do not belong in Vermont. You can't have that happen to you. Unfortunately, the voice of reason was the Scorpio, aka the man who launched all of the break up with him, block him, never look back type of content that is some of my biggest hits today. ChatGPT didn't exist, and I didn't have something to just give me answers right away. And I wasn't really messing with my dad like that. So at the time, I really liked him. He was who I was goo goo gaga for, and I trusted him. Well, a month goes by, and I actually was going to go with them to Vermont. But then it turned out that the house didn't go through. Whatever they were trying to buy just flopped. So it ended up being a situation where I had another 3 weeks to decide. And I used those 3 weeks to get a job and to get my first apartment and to move out. And that was really hard on me because I felt like I wasn't planning for this to happen that fast. It kind of vaulted me into a not so nice neighborhood, pretty decent, but not the best. And then I also had to just take whatever job I could get just so I could have a job, period. And even though it was in line with what I was doing, everything was so new all at once and my identity was shattered. I was going through limerence and that part of it was very physical. But for the most part, I was supported and I did have just enough financial cash to make it last. Hence the episode, How to Move Out When You Have 30 Days Notice. I actually had support all around me, from my community to my mom, to basically even the person that hired me at the time. I had so much support, but it didn't feel like it. All I could feel was the abandonment. Not even just from my mom and her abrupt decision to move out of nowhere, but also from the Scorpio and how on and off we were with blocking and unblocking, and me just really trying to put him to rest once and for all. It also seemed like a time where people were morbidly interested in what was going to happen to me because I was coming to the job scene with literally 4 years of just content creator experience. And I was living in a house that had, an apartment that had no furniture inside of it besides whatever I had from my mother's place. And people just didn't really know what it was going to look like for me. And honestly, I didn't either. And just that awareness and uncertainty, and then the loss of mother and man. And then it was also friends and even some of my community because like my room stopped being bright pink. I stopped doing my hair and makeup in crazy colors because I felt so depressed. I was kind of like, oh my God, I need to blend in with the world now. Now I'm one of the world. Like now I'm out here with a job, which wasn't true. I actually could have decided to keep up my sleigh, but it was just an overwhelming experience and a lot of emotions to process. So I think I even kind of started under-delivering online. And I under-delivered in terms of personality and content too. Someone actually told me, someone at my job, before they finally said goodbye once and for all to me, they told me to not change my content style because of where I work and what I'm doing, because my job would get rid of me just like that if they ever needed to and or wanted to. And period, poo, because she was right. I mean, about 3 years later, but still, the queen was right. Nonetheless, I still was a little bit affected with how I showed up online. I knew how to do my hair. I knew how to do my makeup. I knew how to show up online with good lighting and with good purpose and with intention and hooks and clickbait. And I knew how to adapt my strategy and make a podcast, but it felt like heavy physically. I had this feeling of identity loss, even though all of those things were inside me and that was my potential and I was capable. I was just so blind to the support. And it took a really long time to come around and realize how loved and supported that I was. Because obviously my life got better in a way that could only happen if you have that. My entire identity was put into a crisis because everything that I thought was safe was removed away from me. And I always knew that my situation was temporary and I wasn't going to live in it forever. And that part of me that couldn't settle and relax felt so disturbed. And it never left my body. I just don't think I ever fully recovered from being able to show up online in a way that felt very intentional since 2022. But when I finally did start to get around to it, and when I started to really upgrade my life, just like how I had a sneaking suspicion that it would, my work situation got weird. And that's funny, right? Because you do have a little suspicion like, I wonder if I get that nice apartment and that nice car, if they're suddenly going to amplify any type of treatment or behavior towards me. By the way, if you guys know who I'm talking about, sending hate and being mean and doing anything online is never Fleeksy approved. Also, don't give them any attention. But I did notice when other people started to get a little too big for their britches and post themselves on vacations, that was right about the moment when you wouldn't see them anymore. And I also did notice that when I would take my PTO, which by the way, we had quite a bit of, it would be met with animosity or anger towards me. I realized that my situation was unique to me when it came to work, that I was in a place that had no official workflow. I was creating the workflow, and that my creep was scoping as everything was growing. The demands got higher and larger, and they became out of my control, and I even started kind of getting verbally abused in a very public way, in ways that it was just really hard to overlook, and I knew I had to start saving money. Nothing about my life felt like I was settled and permanent in one place, but it did look like I had a nice new apartment and I had a nice new car, and there is stability, right? Because I'm getting my hair done, I'm getting my nails done. I'm living a well-kept life because of a full-time job, which honestly, that's what a full-time job should do. I was experiencing things that were adding to the instability that I felt like I couldn't recover from the very moment that I had to move out of my mom's house. Taking a brief moment to pause the podcast so that we can insert some ad breaks right over here. If you're Spotify Premium, you don't get any ads. So I guess what I'm trying to say with this long trauma dump here is that I would have blips of moments where I would be productive and I could make it on to the next half of the race. I would time batch my chores. I would tell myself I can do it in 10 minutes. I can get it done in 20 minutes. I would make checklists, and it was helpful. It was effective. But when I wasn't doing that, I was catatonic, and I was intellectualizing my way out of actually being accountable and doing stuff on a day-to-day basis. And all it took was maybe somebody yelling at me or someone telling me that I wasn't shit. I would barely be able to show up for my community, and it felt like I couldn't even hear my own thoughts. I was so focused on surviving and staying in one place. And I know this feels complex and it feels layered, and that's because it is. And obviously your situation is going to be different from mine. It was hard for me to sort my emotions out because I think for the longest time, I told myself all I ever wanted was a 9-to-5. All I ever wanted was stability. I realized how under-equipped I was in the actual work field. And once I got to the work field, I had imposter syndrome. And then once I started to feel like, okay, I actually do know what I'm doing. I'm learning here. I'm growing. Then I was being told that I wasn't shit, or I would have episodes of being yelled at very publicly. And I'm going to tell you guys a spoiler alert. Usually that's because the company's doing bad and everybody starts pointing fingers. But you don't know that. All you know is that the person that was supporting you is now looking down on you and making a scene. I was also getting it from the bottom at work too. I had people who just didn't fuck with me. If I can be quite frank, when you're in a position of quote unquote influence, as I am, or you have followers and you're in a small town, you trigger a lot of things in people. And there's endless amounts of content about this, and I could make a whole other episode. It was basically like being in a prison yard population and being the prisoner who had too much light, too much energy, and people wanted to rob me, shake me down, ask me where's my free PR, why don't they get any of it? And they would just volunteer me for things and even try to volunteer my clothes for the models. They would also see me as somebody who had a lot of energy. They would weaponize my competence around them by trying to get me to do their task or write their emails or complete things for them that they were capable of doing. I was there for social media and content management, but I was being treated like a personal assistant. I was tasked with filing creatives like images and videos and making it so that everybody could find it. But everybody would be in my inbox interrupting me while I was doing something, asking me, where's this file? How can I find it? And they would act completely inept at things that I knew how to do. And basically, I don't even want to be rude, but that's the tea. I was surrounded by people on the top who thought I wasn't doing enough, I wasn't producing enough. And then I had the people at the bottom who were like, oh, well, she's already getting money outside of this job. She already lives an easy life, trying to fucking humble me and make my life harder. And yes, we did have moments of good days, but it was just an overwhelming amount of people who were qualified getting fired, and then Nepo hires coming in, and then all the Nepo hires treating me like an assistant, and then me laying boundaries again and again until eventually my position got changed to an associate, regular, and then they got given the manager titles. So now it's okay for them to stop treating me like a consultant and to start treating me like their robot. And I was just on survival mode. And by the time I would come home to look for new jobs, I was delirious. I was like, what the fuck do I even do? What responsibility am I out here having for others? I could barely even articulate it on paper, and by the time I did, I was one of those psychos with the 4-page resume, which, by the way, you're not supposed to do the 4-page resume. And of course, it got me the results that you think it would get me, which is little to nothing, with one assessment or two. I say all of this to say, this is what overprocessing looks like. This is what being overloaded feels like. In real time, you could be going through this at work and then coming home and be depleted inexplicably. And then you could maybe be barraged by bad news. And then maybe you could be overwhelmed by the feeling of what's the point, intellectualizing yourself into doing nothing. You don't even have an appetite to listen to anything or to be consumed by another task. When you're in this type of challenge, the most important thing is to not disassociate, because that's the first thing that being targeted from all directions and losing your sense of identity is going to want to make you do. So point number 1, let's talk about being scroll locked. This is when you come home and you just start sitting on the couch and scrolling on your phone. Eventually, all you know is that your finger just wants to go up and down, and it's not even looking for anything specific online. It's just swiping, looking for dopamine hits. Meanwhile, your body is getting heavier and heavier with each swipe, and it feels like you suddenly weigh 1,000 pounds and you can barely get yourself across the apartment to grab yourself a glass of water, let alone feed yourself. It's because your brain is becoming dopamine starved. You think that you're entertaining yourself, you think that you're fueling your mind or doing something good because, hey, this side of the internet shows you things that you wouldn't get anywhere else, right? Well, the algorithms are always changing, and the way that platforms are designed are to change rapidly. In the back of your head, you're telling yourself, I can't miss the next post. What if my 99th scroll shows me the post that I've been waiting to see? But all the posts aren't doing that. They're repetitive. Your FYP is an echo chamber, and you're just seeing whatever the algorithm wants you to digest. Or even worse, you're on a timeline of people who are all just monetizing the most trending topic, and they're all just trying to talk for 1 minute about something that everybody else is already talking about, and nobody's bringing any originality to the conversation. I'm looking at the Justin Baldoni people and everybody who happens to jump on a major trending topic just because it's popping up all over the timeline and they want to cash in on that sweet creator revenue too. Our FYPs aren't designed the same way that they were in 2020. And a lot of things have changed in order to make that possible. Looking at all the tech CEOs that were at the inauguration, which, by the way, please don't hurt me. In January of 2025, Meta purposely amplified political content and deprioritized all other forms of content. It was an intentional effort to get people to talk and engage with the internet in an angry way. So you're on platforms that are purposely not fostering good content or amplifying your favorite content creators. It was all about amplifying the voices that were political, angry, and technically, in this case, in this moment in time, engaging, or at least whatever they wanted people to engage with. What we were experiencing as a doom scroll was an intentional effort by Mark Zuckerberg and Donald Trump to amplify Donald Trump's executive presidential decisions, to make sure that we could all hear his dick swinging across the table loud and clearly. But you don't have to subject yourself to this, and you don't have to engage with the space just because you were addicted to it 1 year ago or 10 years ago. The way to break out of this is to stop using the internet like a radio. Start using the internet to look for exactly what you want to watch and exactly what you want to listen to. Your FYP is not your friend. And the sooner that you can get in control of the content that you consume, you can become in control of your narrative. This means spending more time in the search bar section and scrolling through that as your FYP, which a lot of people say is better than the actual FYP during these times. Point number 2, when the slump shuts you down mentally. Mine made me not want to read or even listen to a podcast. You lose your appetite for new thoughts entering you while barely being able to hold a solid one of your own that you can genuinely express. It actually feels like pain when you try to. At this stage, you need to try to quiet your inner thoughts just long enough to allow yourself to feel invested in something. It's going to feel stiff and like a cold plunge at first, but you have to give up the idea that your thoughts in your head are the most important thing in this moment. It goes back to the idea that being stuck in your mind is a form of hell. You may think that your thoughts are superior, but are they really if they're telling you not to do anything and not to make any moves? Nothing superior or great comes from a place of stagnance. It's okay to be a thinker, but you have to act on your thoughts. So you need to start thinking the thoughts that are going to get you moving. If you don't have your own thoughts, try to become immersed in someone else's. But if it's really bad, sometimes you just need to listen to classical music. Because what I'm describing is the need for simplicity and the need to process your emotions. You're so overwhelmed that you can barely even be beside yourself in this moment. So the world starts moving around you, and conversations happen without you, and trends pass you by, and months go by. And this is something that could last for way longer than a weekend, and it's definitely not going to be cured by one day off. It's a mix of disassociation, losing your identity, and losing your inner narrative, and being unable to move with alignment to all of those things. So first, be with yourself. Do yoga, stretch, look to the left, look to the right, do it again and again. Look up, look down. Remind your body that you're real and that you're here and that what you're experiencing is valid. What's the date? What's the time? What's the weather? Can you name 3 things you can smell, 3 things you can touch, 3 things you can feel? Inhale the moment that is right now and then decide exactly what you want to become immersed in. Is it a task like cleaning, working, walking? Become immersed. Become entertained. Allow yourself to exit your mind. It's about taking control of ending your slump and making the inchworm moves that you need to get out of it. It's not about gaslighting yourself into having energy, but the realization that your body will give you the energy that you tell it needs to have. Just like how it's going to show up for the moment where you say nothing is worth it, you don't need to do anything, why even bother? Sean Illing would say, attend to something outside of yourself. He says that going deeper and deeper into yourself out of cynicism is a road to nowhere. You will think yourself out of happiness with cynicism. Taking a quick moment to pause on your back alley therapy, I'm going to insert some ads. Ads support the podcast and make this episode possible. Thank you guys for listening to the Fleekazoid podcast. We are now back from the ads and on to our next point. Point number 3, shopping and spending isn't going to cure your slump. It's only going to make your slump financially stressful and scary when you finally start to awaken from it. The only things that you should be spending on in your slump is body wash, sunscreen, skincare, basic face wash, and comforts at this stage. Bare needs and essentials. Do not try to dopamine rush your way out of your slump through shopping. It's not going to help you, and it's not going to make you fired up by the time you finally wake up out of it. No judgment if you've already done a fair amount of this, because I know I did too. The desire to shop when you're in a slump is just a chase for dopamine. Just like the doom scrolling, it's right up there with disassociating and imagining a future that's not in front of you or a reality that's not actually something that you can handle and deal with right now. If you have an online cart that you keep looking back at that has the same exact function as giving you dopamine from the rush of shopping, it's just a task that feels rewarding, but it's not. What's going to be rewarding is knowing that you have exactly what you need when you finally get out of that slump and can think clearly and shop from a rational place, not from survival. Unsubscribe from the email marketing if you have to. Stop the text messages that come in. Delete the shopping phone apps. If you have to even do it, unlink your credit cards from your Apple Pay. Hide your credit cards from yourself. Now, financial experts will say that it's not possible to just go cold turkey with the shopping. So if you have to move in stages, move in stages. But the goal is to not tempt yourself and to stop treating this like a source of energy, because it's not. Point number 4, it takes hard work to be happy, but it also takes hard work to be miserable. Choose your hard. People will say that you need to learn to regulate. But really, in my opinion, dysregulation is your system activating exactly the way that it should when you're in a situation that you shouldn't be in. Stop using the energy to pretend like you're the one that's freaking out and you're the one that's misinterpreting things and that you're the one that just needs to calm down, when really you need to take what little you have and what's being drained from you and allocate it towards a whole new situation and getting yourself propped up for that. It's your body communicating that you're in danger or that something's not right or that there's a situation that you need to get away from because it doesn't align with you or your values or what you want for yourself. But you wouldn't need to do so much damn regulating if you were in an environment that wasn't actively triggering it. What you really need to do is regulate yourself long enough so that you can escape what's dysregulating you. Depending on how bad the gaslighting is, or depending on how much shit is being talked to you or about you, or how openly disliked you are, you're going to need to be with yourself and to validate that you're not crazy, that you're not weird, that the sentences that you are speaking are making sense. Now, you know it's bad when you feel like you need to get a camera and listen to yourself back, but it's a symptom that that's what you're going through. When you are facing so much dysregulation from external environments, and you'll know because your home will be peaceful, but suddenly you'll walk into chaos and you'll find yourself wanting to take it back home with you, it's important that you show up fully rested, on a full stomach, and calm with your breathing collected, your 2 feet on the ground, and making sure that you can feel it, and not letting people take your peace. I used to think, wow, my life is so chaotic, but it's like, no. In my home space, I create clean, good smells. I have a baby that is well taken care of. I make sure that I'm on my P's and Q's when it comes to my skincare and brushing my teeth. But then I enter other environments and suddenly I'm depleted and I'm defeated and I'm around hostile energy that wants me to adapt it, you'll realize that dysfunctional energy will try to regulate itself through you. Don't make it possible. Have your peace be unshakable. But if it's not unshakable, just know that you can always come back to yourself by knowing that you're not the one who needs to be doing all the regulating. The next point is about the physical part of the slump. When you stop wanting to exercise, it's because you walk around feeling like your body is 1,000,000 pounds. This is the flight part of your nervous system shutting down. The slump from hell continues. I saw a quote on Threads that kind of stuck with me, but it was somebody saying, if you're too tired to work out, have you tried working out? I've also seen people ask other people on Threads the question, how are you guys coming home and working out after a full shift? And people are saying that they don't even sit down. They don't let their body even recognize that they're tired. They just go put on their clothes. Or they straight up just go to the gym when they're tired and then they find themselves waking up mid-gym session, which is so crazy. I don't think anybody gives this advice. It's just what people were saying online. Personally though, I have actually done going to the gym drowsy, and it's true. You will actually wake up mid-gym session. I also can't say that I have tried the first method of just never sitting down after work, just because that's a primal urge for me. Something to try if you want to. My advice though is knowing what you're gonna wear and knowing what workout you wanna do is gonna take you a long way. I also like to give my workouts names, especially if it's been a really long time since I haven't worked out. I'll call my workout the wakey wakey. And this is something that I do that's low on repetitions, low on weight. It's just something to remind my body that it's workout time and that I'm gonna be coming back in a few days. If you don't enjoy your workouts, don't worry, because most professional athletes and people who do it for a living don't really care for them either. As soon as they wake up, that's not what they're thinking about. Most of them are actually working out so that they can feel the little high that comes from the nitrogen oxide whenever they're doing their max weights, or the runner's high whenever they finish a good mile or two. And hey, that doesn't mean that they're not grateful to work out, but don't beat yourself up because you're not immediately in love with the idea. Obviously, some of them do love it, okay? But it's not something that you need to have in order to go to the gym or get your workout in. So give yourself permission to go without being super enthusiastic about it. Or do a YouTube workout video in your home space. You can get a cheap mat from Marshall's or TJ Maxx, and it's actually apparently better for you than doing 1 hour of weights at the gym because the intensity that's required in these short burst YouTube videos. However, if you're like me and you are 30 plus, I'm 30 years old, but yeah, you're gonna wanna actually have weights in your routine in your life. That's an essential as you get older. But just to recap, you're gonna wanna have your clothes laid out, your shoes already chosen, socks good to go. Don't make it too complicated though. And yeah, just know exactly what you're gonna do. Some days I go and I only do legs. Some days I go and I only do my arms. I will go with a mission. So have your mission cleared out. Also, I like to end with a nice little 10 to 15 minute cardio session if I can help it. Like a high incline walk, but that's just me and my body type. Do what's right for you. You can find incredible resources on TikTok, YouTube, and you can ask ChatGPT too. Make sure that you're being very specific about your body type and how long it's been since you've been inactive so that you don't injure yourself. But do not fall into the overthinking trap. Remember, after a certain point, you have to stop thinking and you have to start doing. Once you start over-processing it, you're stopping yourself from actually moving forward. This next point is about how you can wake up in the morning and just feel like you're already in slump mindset. You're already on, I don't want to do anything. I'm already heavy. This day feels like a scroll day. If I want to just lay in bed, then why not just stay in bed and lay in bed and do what I want? Well, yeah, that's fine and dandy for 1, 2, or 3 weekends, but eventually once you start entering the months to the years part of that equation, or maybe you spend more days in bed than you do actually moving around, then you have an issue. And not even just in bed, right? The doom scrolling, being frozen in place, that's not good for you, bestie. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna start with a small list, and it's only gonna be 3 items. I don't know about you guys, but for me, it had to be brush my teeth, make my coffee, and do my skincare. Morning stuff. For some reason, that always felt like Mount Kilimanjaro. Make a smoothie, feed the cat. it would then become an even bigger list of whatever I needed to do for the day. Eventually, before you know it, oh my God, look, you took 100 steps in the day. But you have to just keep thinking about the next small 3 easy things to do. So for me, it would be wash my dishes, go for a walk, do an at-home workout. And then I would just keep saying, what's the next 3 things? What's the next 3 things? Which brings me to my next point. This is very common advice, but don't scroll in your bed first thing in the morning. I'm guilty of it too. Try to do it when you're at least standing up in your kitchen making some coffee, and try to be very intentional that you're looking for something deliberate online. You're not just trying to scroll the TikTok FYP hoping that you're going to find a podcast clip. The first thing you actually want to do in bed is set your intention for the day. And you really have to be committed to having an intention, and your intention can be based around your goals for the day or the year. But if you're not committed to having an intention, then you're just going to skip right past this. And then I feel like your day kind of ends up going any which way, which means your week does, and the month follows that pattern. And before you know it, you're one of those people who's like, wow, January went by so fast, or like February flew. And it's like, yeah, well, you weren't really challenging yourself or measuring the month by anything special. You were just letting it pass by you, which is a very key tenet of the slump from hell. When you're setting your intention, make sure that it's about future you, because that's all this is for. Like, escaping the slump from hell is making sure that you don't actually end up in literal, physical, mental hell. You want to let future you get all the favors that they can possibly get from today you, and you only would have yourself to thank for it. I know there's this version of me today that still thanks myself for what I did back at the age of 25, 26, 27. Like, I thank God for her. And that's what you want to do for you. You want to have that same relationship with yourself, because it gives you confidence and it lets you know that, like, you're never going to let you flop. So yeah, that's all my talking points for today. But I do want to leave you guys with a little positivity. I will say that once I left my work environment, obviously I had to use a lot less energy protecting myself, and I could redirect it back to me. Yeah, getting away from the thing that is triggering your nervous system is going to do a lot for your nervous system. At the same time, I am in a very different situation than I was when it came to the feeling of loss, and I'm a little bit more appreciative and I have more gratitude. Getting away from the stressors and being intentional about my living and having a plan for me, and knowing that the plan that I'm making for me is the one that's right for me, is what's getting me through this. And I hope that you guys are able to take away a little bit of mindset from this too, because after a certain point, it stops being depression and it's just depletion, because cue me leaving the stressor and me already feeling better and getting my energy back. As for the pain with my family, me and my mom made amends and we're on really good terms now. We text a whole lot. Me and my sister hang out and we spend time together, and she's been getting me through this layoff situation, and she was a big beam of support for me and a lot of comfort when I really needed it the most. I was also doing my best to try to protect them from all the drama, by the way. It was like, hey, yeah, it's not really good, and then all of a sudden it was like, you guys, I know I'm getting fired this Friday. But yeah, go listen to my Decenter Work podcast if you want to hear a little bit about that. And if you want some more work topics, stay tuned because I'll make more of those. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in today. Make sure to give me a follow if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, and leave me 5 stars. Giving me 5 stars, comments, following, it all supports Fleeksy supremacy and makes it so that I can be discovered, or so that I pop up higher on the algorithm on these platforms. So yeah, thank you guys for all of your support. And if you guys want to connect with me, I'm Fleeksy on all my social media channels. Go follow me. I'm trying to grow my followers, especially on YouTube too. But I hope everybody has a great day. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and we will see you all later. Bye.